Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how you doing? What we're going to be talking about today is who is really to blame here for what is really truly going on, because I've still yet to put my finger on it. um, but before we get into today's video, let me introduce myself. Hello, my name is Autumn, and here on this channel we talk about what's going on here in the States, current events, as well as what's going on abroad in other countries. I do have a Patreon channel, and over there we talk about current events and we go down rabbit holes. I go live over there, and the link is in the description box below, and we really do some deep diving and digging and the juicy stuff. I am going to be dropping a video over there today because there's just, dear goddess, when I tell you the things that are coming out is just, you would never even think. But anyway, so let me get into it. So there's this guy, okay? He's a Chinese citizen. And he says that it isn't China's fault that they got rich. Okay? And it's kind of hard to disagree. Okay, you know how, like, the statement, agree to disagree? Well, it's kind of hard to disagree with him. Just listen to what he has to say, because I think you'll understand what I mean and what he said. You get it? Okay.
They rob you blind and you thank them for it. That's a tragedy. That's a scam. That's why I'm saying this right now. Americans, you don't need a tariff. You need a revolution. For decades, your government and oligarchs only ship your job to China. Not for diplomacy, not for peace, but to exploit cheap laborers. And in the process, they hollowed out your middle class, crushed your working class, and told you to be proud while they sold your future for profit. And yes, China made money, but we used it to build roads, lift millions out of poverty, fund healthcare, raise living standard. We reinvested in our people. My family also benefited from it. What did your oligarchs do? They bought yachts, private jets, mansions with golf course driveways. They manipulated the market, dodged tax, and poured billions into endless wars. And you get stagnated wages, crippling healthcare costs, cheap dopamine, debt, and flag to wave property made in China while they pick your pocket. For 40 years, both China and the United States benefit from the trade, the manufacturing, but only one of us use that wealth to build. This isn't China's fault. This is yours. You let this happen. You let the oligarchs fit your lies. Well, they made you fat, poor, and addicted. Now they blame China for mess they made. I don't think so. I don't think you need another tariff. You need to wake up. You need to take your country back. I think you need a revolution.
So, like I said, I agree with what he's saying. You can't really blame them. But on the same token, you want to blame our government because they're so corrupt in allowing it to all happen. For, you know how, like, the saying that we always say, it's all by design? For designing all of this to happen so they can all get rich. I mean, they're all lining their pockets, for crying out loud. I mean, like, look at Congress and Senate. They make $200,000 a year, but yet some of them, their net worth is like 80 mil. Okay. So anyway, our president, it's like he's trying to throw a wrench into their plans, I guess you could say, to save our country. But, I just hope it's not too late, that type of thing. I, I understand that he only has one term, right? But, we could only hope that, for those that are fans of JD Vance, maybe he can run, and then Trump could be his VP, and then, you know what I'm saying? So there's more time to really straighten things out, because there's no way in heck that he can fix the damage in 4 years. There's no way. There's no way. So the next thing that I want to talk about is what's going on in Britain. This next video, I have no idea who this lady is, okay? Actually, my husband sent me this video. And when I listened to it, she's absolutely correct, 100%. And when I watched it, I was almost like, oh my gosh. You know, it was like the first thing that hit me was, this could have so been us with the last administration. So, because of the influx, okay, but now we're dealing with a whole new problem, and this whole new problem is what's going on in Dearborn, Patterson, and now what's taking hold of the great state of Texas. Just saying.
I make this video without knowledge of who it will reach, without knowing to whom I shall speak. But I do so because it is my duty, as it is yours, to declare my allegiance to the country to which we were born, to the great nation that has been brought to its knees, and which may yet fall to the evils of Islamofascism. Britain is at war. Some of you may think me misinformed, uneducated or naive, but I am here to say that I do not care. For I, who possesses common sense, intelligence and patriotism, can see the truth as plain as day. Britain is at war. War isn't coming, nor has it ended. It is here. And the invasion of our shores have culminated in the rape, murder and destruction of its peoples by those who have come with nothing but hatred for our customs and our cultures. Perhaps most of us are no longer Christian, but this is a Christian country, and we should not condone nor allow the brutal and barbaric practices of a religion which does not recognise any other, which shall not negotiate, shall not seek compromise with, nor coexist with us peacefully. You may not believe me, or you may choose to ignore it, and the phrase ignorance is bliss comes to mind. But what good came of ignorance when fascism rose in Germany? What good came of denial when totalitarianism eventually became the inevitability? What good came of the world when a single ideology was forced upon its inhabitants? I must draw similarities from Europe's collective history, for it is obvious to see, and the signs should not be ignored as they have been in the past. Firstly, the media, or propaganda as it was known then, spreading lies, misinformation and mistrust to keep the people blind. To keep the population distracted and divided by trivial, unimportant nonsense like veganism, Just Stop Oil and the gender issue, in order to keep us under control. Next is the government, headed by a tyrant who claim to save their country, to better it, to make it thrive, only to cripple the economy and bring their country to shame, to drain its lands of wealth and prosperity. Even in the authorities are they now rendered useless, following blindly the orders from above. As police become worthless, powerless, and less about the people they swore to serve. Judges and ministers are corrupt and unjust, dishing out penalties not acceptable against the crimes. As soldiers are pawns, sacrificed and disrespected, unable or unwilling to fight for what is right, for they are now all mindless, without morals nor values. And the morals and values from men from wars past have long since been abandoned, and their sacrifices, unfortunately, almost in vain. Even the poppy, a symbol of remembrance and respect, has been spat at, hated, and memorials defaced, just as other symbols were once looked down upon with utter...
So, Oakland, California, pay attention, as well as everyone else. Know your laws, especially when it comes to your properties. In Oakland, California, say someone graffitis your property, or even heck, just vandalizes your property. And say you don't clean it up right away, like within a week, 2 weeks, 10 days, okay? And the city notifies you and you still don't clean it up. Do you know that in California, or Oakland, California, you could be fined, the property owner can be fined $6,000. And guess what the penalty is for the person that actually does the graffiti and the vandalizing? $1,000. So make that make sense.
Oh, California, what will you think of next? Turns out in Oakland, if somebody graffitis your property and you don't clean it up within 10 days of the city notifying you, you can be fined up to $6,000. Guess what the penalty is for the person that actually did the graffiti? $1,000. That's right, because Oakland.
So I actually did digging, right? In Florida, the property owner, we don't get penalized if our property gets defaced with vandalism or graffiti or anything like that. The person who does the vandalizing is subject to fines and penalties. The severity of the penalties depends on the extent of the damage and the other factors. When it comes to like a second degree misdemeanor, if the damage is $200 or less, the offender could face up to 60 days in jail and a fine of up to $500. First degree misdemeanor, if the damage is between $200 and $1,000, the offender could face up to a year in jail and a fine of $1,000. Third degree felony, if the damage is $1,000 or more, if the offense involves specific properties like a place of worship or has a history of prior convictions, the offender could face up to 5 years in prison and a fine of about $5,000. So then there's also additional considerations. In addition to other penalties, the offender might be required to pay a fine for a first conviction, and this fine can increase or subsequent convictions. Offenders may also be required to perform community service, including the graffiti removal. The offender may also be required to pay restitution to the property owner for the cost of repairing or replacing the damaged property. So this is what I mean. Know your laws, because in California, you'll get fined $6,000 if you don't clean it up. And the offender has to pay $1,000. Whereas here in Florida, we don't have to pay for anything. But the offender, the guy or girl or whatever, who defaced your property, vandalized your property, put graffiti on your property, is the one that not only has to clean it up, but also pay the fines and the restitution and everything else. So this is what I mean. Know your laws, especially when it comes to your personal property. So if you have some morons that are walking down the street, like, you have a bunch of like rowdy kids, because not for nothing, kids when they're bored and it's summertime and they got nothing else to do, okay, because I've seen it here, okay, they're going to do what they're going to do, because where are the parents? They're working, right? And they got nothing to do. So, know your laws, okay? And for God's sakes, make sure those cameras are working. All right, guys, I'm out of here. I will see you in the next one, okay? You stay safe, you stay positive, you keep prepping. And as always, fearless. Ciao.